Hi, everyone. Does help if I unmute myself. Just to make sure everything is clear.
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. So today, this is going to be a lot more of a practical discussion. I think this builds on very much on what the previous speakers have spoken about. So I'm going to be sharing very much our department's approach, or the development of our department's approach, and very much my own thoughts on our journey within AI. So we're going to look a little bit at a case study. I'll talk a bit about AI as an academic literacy, how we plan to teach this with our students, and examples of some of the tools we will use. So like many of the previous speakers have said, we cannot escape it. I think at the moment in our department, our lecturers are very scared. We're scared of this new unknown thing that most of us don't actually understand. And I'm certainly not an expert on AI myself. So we need to embrace this new chapter, just like we did with COVID, just like we did with blended learning. It's always scary to start with, but you know what? We always get there. The students need to be guided. The students are going to use AI whether we guide them or not, and they already are using AI. As been said, different students are using it in different ways. Some students not at all, and some new students are using it extensively. So to guide them better, to equalize that platform is really important. As we are a health professional program, we also need to take careful consideration around the ethics of this. There's not a lot of guidance from a professional board yet on this, on how AI is being used, how AI can be used in therapy. So can I put my client's case study into ChatGPT, for example, and say, what treatment should I do with this person? And what will it give me? And it actually gives pretty decent answers. We've tried it before. So how do we then train our students in terms of those ethical considerations for practice one day when they graduate? So just to start with, on the negative side, to share one of our case studies from last term as well with one of our fourth years, who was in one of her fieldwork blocks. And during this process, it's a formative assessment over 7 weeks with a summative mark at the end of 7 weeks, which is technically the year mark, where they do a bunch of different practical learning, written learning, a whole bunch of different ways of learning towards a summative mark. So in the process, the students submit essays and journals every single week. And it's really a formative idea. So they submit, they get feedback, they progress on it. It's that kind of process. The supervisor for the student discovered AI cheating because of the style of writing from the student. All of a sudden, the student's style of writing became very academic and very using words even some of us didn't know, kind of thing. And that's how we picked it up. So it was really important for us to know what our students are capable and to make those links so that we can pick up when AI is being used incorrectly. Because the problem is, and I'll show you now, is that Turnitin doesn't always pick it up that well. So just to explain briefly, in terms of the outcome, one of our biggest issues was not necessarily the outcome from the proctor case point of view. And we have sent this through to the proctor for now, not quite knowing exactly what to do with it. But the problem was that the student's learning in the process was halted because instead of her progressing through her own critical learning, she was simply copying and pasting out of ChatGPT. And it meant that her learning in the 7 weeks progressive learning was very much halted. And it made it very hard for us as her supervisors and the academic staff to help her deal with the things she didn't understand and move forward because we didn't see her own understanding. So we did have a conversation with her. She did admit guilt, and she resubmitted all the work that was done by AI. But like I said, not everything was picked up by Turnitin, so it was quite interesting to look at. Just to give you an example, this is one of the essay questions. I threw this into ChatGPT myself, came up with an answer very similar to what she has in her essays. Out of interest, when you submit, so all of our students' work goes through eCanva and therefore through Turnitin, you can see that what comes up on the normal eCanva site for the Turnitin, it comes up very low, and that's all you originally see is at 4%. And only when you go into the report do you see that AI for this specific assessment was sitting at 65. When you click on that, it gives you a report, and you can see that the vast majority of her work was, this is just a snapshot of one of the pages, the vast majority of her work came directly from AI. And these are the conversations we then had with her. And even though we have sent it through to the proctor for kind of following the process, we have suggested that this is a warning, because this is something everyone is still learning about more than anything else. So to speak briefly about how we plan on including AI as an academic literacy. So in our department, we've worked very hard on how we integrate academic literacies within our teaching from a day-to-day point of view. And AI, for me, is just the next one that we're including. So the students are going to use AI, like I've said, and they need to be guided on how to use it. When I look at our graduate attributes, the use of AI and critical thinking and technology fits in there beautifully. So this is something we should be working towards as far as we are concerned. Next, it's important. We've come to the realization we can't leave AI or the development and how to use it just to the outside sector. So in our faculty, we have EED, which is an English for Educational Development module, or CIECT. We can't leave it only to them. And I'm not saying it's a partnership, absolutely. But I think for our department, we need to figure out how we're going to do it. Where in our modules we're going to do it, what tools are we going to use, and have those conversations with us as lecturers as part of our academic development. So next, then it becomes the step of embedding AI into all of our modules and scaffolding it through our first to fourth year curriculum. It's about learning different tools and figuring out which tools work in which kind of scenarios. And remembering that throughout all of this, the idea of critical thinking and developing that for our students is one of our primary concerns. So to map this out a little bit more practically, this is kind of the process we're thinking at the moment to follow with our students. So when our students will come in first year, and we'll obviously do this with our first, second, third, and fourth years as already in the course, we need to find out where they are. Some students are definitely, I know some high schools are using this already. So some students are going to come in with some ideas, some good ideas and some bad ideas. So figuring out where our students are and what they know. Next, I think it's still really important for our students to develop what I'm calling the raw skill, so the original skill. So if we talk about writing an introduction for an essay, how do I do that? And practicing doing that by themselves without the use of things like AI. Then very important to have conversations with our students around the ethics of it. Where can you use it? Where can't you use it? Where's the line between plagiarism and your own work? And I'll speak a little bit more about that in the next section. And then the introduction to tools. So maybe at first year, just starting with ChatGPT, for example, it's probably one of the easier ones. And building that as the students progress in different modules. Figuring out what's the best tools for things like literature reviews or things like writing summaries, or when we start looking at more of our clinical work in third and fourth year, and we're going, what are ideas that we can do with our clients? What are the best tools for those things? And those tools are being developed in terms of AI every single day at the moment. Next, about explicitly practicing it in class. So actually sitting with our students in class going, what are we doing? And working through it. So opening up ChatGPT and putting the essay example, the essay title into it and saying what comes out. And then talking about things like, well, look, this is wrong. This is inaccurate information in ChatGPT because we know it gives inaccurate answers. These references are made up because we know it makes up references when you ask it for references. So that kind of idea, and having those conversations with our students in the classroom and learning with them through the process, I think is really important because we're definitely not the experts either. Step 6, around continuous improvement. I think this is a process that we're constantly going to be seeing new things and new developments, and we're going to need to be keeping up with that. Next, grading it from year to year. So what I teach my first years and how I work with my first years is going to be different to how I work with my fourth years. And lastly, we'll have to continuously be focusing on the future. What is the next step? How do we keep changing and learning in this process? So just to quickly speak about some examples of tools, because I know my time's almost up. In terms of ChatGPT, this is one of the tools that I don't actually use that much, but I really like it in some ways. One of the things I love using it for with the students is around that kind of first draft. So I've got an essay around a topic and the students are going, I've got no idea what this topic's about. I'm really lost. Let's throw it into ChatGPT. Let's come up with a first draft. Let's come up with some ideas. And then I can take those kind of pinpoint ideas within what they've given me, and I can go and research those more, and I can go get more information. So that for me is a great place to start. Another way of using it is once my students have maybe done, if they've done draft 1 by themselves and they've handed it back to me for feedback, I've given them feedback. This is a great place to use it as well, to go, this is what I've written. My lecturer has given me this feedback. Help me refine this. And this is where ChatGPT works really nicely. And it helps with that sentence development and some new words and those type of things, which is great.
2 minutes.
Thank you. Already like using it in introductions and conclusions. It helps refine them. Another tool we use quite extensively is what I call AI on WhatsApp. It's a company called Learn a Lot. I've given you the number. It's great for me to have it out in clinical practice. If we aren't sure about something, throw a question into WhatsApp. It gives me an answer immediately. Literature review, websites like Elicit and SciSpace are summarizing articles. Semantic Scholar is great instead of using Google Scholar. I find it much better. Research Rabbit is also a great one. I'll show you some examples on now. And one of the other ones I use quite extensively is a Chrome extension for YouTube, an article summary with ChatGPT. And this allows me, when I'm looking for some resources, I use it on my YouTube, and instead of watching that 20-minute video, it gives me a summary, and I know whether I can use it or not, and I've saved that time. So just to give you an example, the same essay question from the student who we found cheating, I put that into, this is from Elicit. What I really like is that it pulls up the articles, but then it also gives you summaries of the articles, which it makes it so much faster for our students to work through the data. This is from Research Rabbit. What I like here in terms of using it for literature review, you can put different examples, you can put things in collections. I, again, used the same question and it brought up a bunch of different articles for me. I then put those into a collection. I can then click on them and it will give me similar work. It will give me, so I can find more articles. I can also find more articles by the same authors and those type of things. So it makes it very fluid for the students to work through lots of research and makes everything go faster. And that's it. Thank you very much.